Her real name was Ruby Catherine Stevens, and she was born on July 16, 1907, in Brooklyn, New York. Her early years were marked by sadness and strength. When she was only 4 years old, her mother died, and soon after, her father left the family. She moved around a lot of foster homes because she lost her parents when she was young and was mostly raised by her older sister. Stanwyck gained a strong sense of independence, emotional strength, and an unwavering work ethic from these early events that would shape her life and career. Stanwyck started her job on stage as a chorus girl in nightclubs and vaudeville shows. Later, she made it to Broadway. She got her big break when she was cast in the play The Noose in 1926. It made her famous and got the attention of the theater business. It wasn't long before Hollywood called. Her first movie role was in the silent movie Broadway Nights, 1927. She quickly switched to talkies and proved she had the voice and presence for sound movies, something many silent movie stars failed to do. During the 1930s and 1940s, Barbara Stanwyck was one of the most popular and well-liked stars in Hollywood. Her performances were unique because they were both tough and vulnerable at the same time. This let her play a wide range of complicated, smart, and strong-willed women. People knew her for being able to easily switch between melodramas, noirs, and screwball comedies. In Stella Dallas, 1937, she played a working-class mother in a way that was both moving and selfless, trying to give her daughter a better life, which earned her the first of 4 Academy Award nods. In 1941's The Lady Eve, she wowed audiences with her comedic timing and seductive charm opposite Henry Fonda. This showed how good she was at playing silly parts. And in 1944's Double Indemnity, which is probably her most famous part, she changed the idea of the femme fatale, giving an eerie and seductive performance that reviewers and audiences still talk about today. Stanwyck was nominated for many Oscars, but she never won a competitive Academy Award. But in the end, her body of work was honored when she was given an honorary Oscar in 1982 for her lasting contributions to the art of film. After her acting career was over, she won 3 Emmy Awards for her work on TV, among other things for her well-known part as the tough and wise mother Victoria Barclay in The Big Valley, 1965 to 1969. She made a smooth transition to TV, and she was one of the first big movie stars to have long-term success on TV. This showed how flexible she was and how relevant she was in an entertainment business that was changing quickly. In a business where actresses' careers were often limited by their age, Barbara Stanwyck went against the norm and kept acting with grace and power into her 70s. She was in a number of TV miniseries, including The Thornbirds, 1983, for which she got a Golden Globe and received other praise. In 1986, she made her last movie appearance in the film The Colbys, which was based off of the popular nighttime soap opera Dynasty, taking her career full circle with a performance that was both powerful and appropriate. Barbara Stanwyck got married for the first time on August 26, 1928, to fellow actress Frank Fay. They met while they were both in the Broadway play Burlesque. Stanwyck was a young actress with big dreams and a growing star at the time. Fay, on the other hand, was already a famous vaudeville and stage comedian known for his sharp wit and charm. At first, their relationship was viewed as a glamorous match in the entertainment industry, and it looked like it would work out well for both of them professionally and individually. On the inside, though, their marriage had been difficult, almost from the start. When Stanwyck's career started to take off, Fay, who was known for being moody and drinking a lot, allegedly became more abusive and emotionally distant. Their attitudes were very different from each other. Stanwyck was quiet, focused, and controlled, but was showy, bossy, and rumored to be angry about his wife's rising fame. The couple adopted a 10-month-old boy in 1932 and called him Dion. He would later be known as Anthony Dion Fay. They did this to strengthen their marriage and meet their shared desire to have a family. Stanwyck reportedly thought that becoming a mother would help her personal life get back on track. But as time went on, the problems in her marriage got worse. She didn't feel as close to them after the adoption as she had hoped. After years of fighting, Barbara Stanwyck made the hard choice to end her marriage to Fay. On December 30th, 1935, they were finally divorced. Stanwyck got full custody of their adopted son and had to teach him how to be a good boy while also continuing her successful job in Hollywood. Even though she tried to raise Dion with care and control, their relationship got worse as he got older. It is said that Stanwyck had a strict and emotionally distant relationship with her son, which may have been a result of her own difficult childhood and led to their final separation. When Dion became an adult, he had totally cut himself off from his mother, and they stayed that way for the rest of her life. Following the painful end of her first marriage, Stanwyck focused on her work until the mid-1930s, when she met actor Robert Taylor. A marketing stunt put them together with each other in 1936, which led to them starting a relationship. But what started out as a business deal turned into a real relationship very quickly. Taylor, who was 9 years younger than Stanwyck, was a good-looking, popular actor whose career was on the rise. Right away became one of Hollywood's most loved pairs. The media paid close attention to their 3-year courtship, which was often called a fairy tale romance. After a lot of talk and support from friends and studio execs, the couple finally got married on May 14, 1939, in a small ceremony at Stanwyck's home in Beverly Hills. The press often made their marriage look like it was perfect, but it wasn't always easy. Due to their busy film schedules and the fact that Stanwyck was more grounded and practical, and Taylor was more outgoing and social, the couple's relationship finally fell apart. Even though they were different, they were happy to spend many years together, helping each other with their jobs and staying close friends. Tatum was said to be truly in love with Stanwyck, taking on some of his hobbies, like horseback riding and ranching. But as time went on, they became emotionally farther apart. Taylor supposedly asked Stanwyck to start the divorce process so that he wouldn't have to deal with any problems. He wanted to protect his public image. She agreed to what he asked as a sign of understanding and grace. Barbara Stanwyck and Robert Taylor's marriage ended on February 21, 1951, after they had been living apart for a year. Stanwyck never married again, and many people close to her thought she never really got over Taylor, even though the divorce was described as friendly. Even after they broke up, they stayed friends, and Stanwyck kept talking positively about him in public. Stanwyck was said to be heartbroken when Taylor died of lung cancer in 1969. He reportedly mourned him alone and didn't go to the funeral out of respect for his new wife, but he did send flowers with an emotional note. The two most important romantic ties in Barbara Stanwyck's life happened between these two people. Both ended in divorce, but they showed how strong she was emotionally, how loyal she was, and how much she could love even when things got hard. She decided to use her personal problems in her work her whole life, and it paid off. She became one of the most respected and versatile actresses of Hollywood's golden age. In an honest, unreleased part of her autobiography that has only recently been found through archival research, the famous actress Barbara Stanwyck left nothing to the imagination. This shocking discovery made headlines even decades after her death. Stanwyck was known for keeping her personal life very private, especially when it came to her relationships. However, she is said to have revealed shocking details about her meetings with Bert Lancaster, the legendary star of classic Hollywood movies. There have been many rumors and re-evaluations of how well Stanwyck and Lancaster got along off-screen because of how honestly she talked about Lancaster. She did it with a mix of respect, amazement, and long-lasting curiosity. Stanwyck wasn't just talking about Lancaster's height or muscle mass when she called him massive. Lancaster met the description, being over 6 feet tall and having a body that had earned him fame as a circus dancer. But what Stanwyck meant was much more than just her height. In her autobiography, she seemed to talk about how he was a strong influence in and out of the bedroom. She went into great depth about the first time they met. Lancaster's broad shoulders stood out against the light. His voice was a thunderous baritone that made her bones shake, and the focus in his piercing blue eyes made her gasp for a moment. She remembered how they had an exciting chemistry when they first met in the golden age of Hollywood, when both of their careers were at their peak. Even though they never starred together in a big romantic movie, there was a lot of tension between them behind the scenes. Other crew members often whispered about it, but didn't say it out loud. Stanwyck talked about private meals, secret meetings, and times when they looked at each other across crowded studio parties. She wrote that there was an obvious attraction and a physical energy that didn't follow Hollywood's planned scripts and lighting cues. Stanwyck. She said that she had rarely met a guy who could emotionally or intellectually challenge her. On screen and off, she was always the tough, independent woman. Lancaster was one of the few exceptions. She wrote that he owned the room, not just walked into it. He was very aware of how he affected people. He made her feel things she had pushed down for a long time, maybe even from her troubled marriage to Frank Fay when she was younger. Lancaster didn't put on a show or make small talk. It was fire meeting fire. But what really interested her wasn't his sexuality or the fact that he was a famous person. It was the fact that he sometimes let his guard down behind closed doors. Even though he was portrayed as a tough guy Hollywood rebel, Stanwyck said that Lancaster had an inner depth that not many people saw. In a very moving passage, she talked about a late-night talk in which he talked about his regrets, his confusing relationship with fame, and how being admired often made him feel alone. She said it again. He was huge, not just physically, but also in terms of presence, emotion, and pain. The book shows that whatever they had was short-lived, charged, and maybe doomed by the way things turned out. But it changed Stanwyck in a way that can't be erased. At the end of the passage, she said, "Some men come and go in your life like shadows on a wall, but Bert was a force of nature. Sometimes I can still feel him in the quiet." This statement that was kept secret for years adds a new edge to the legacies of both stars. One of openness, silent love, and the electric closeness that Hollywood often hides. Stanwyck was known for playing strong, tough women on screen. This private admission shows a side of her that is rarely seen, one that is deeply human, longing, and captivated by a guy who was huge in every way. Barbara Stanwyck stopped working in movies for good in the 1980s, but she didn't do nothing in her free time. After she stopped being in front of the camera, she continued to live a quiet but meaningful life. She often gave to good causes, but she didn't want anyone to know about her good acts. Stanwyck decided to keep her charitable work out of the public eye because she was a very private person who had always had a strong sense of independence. People who were close to her knew how generous she was. She often gave to groups that helped artists who were having trouble, kids who needed help, and Catholic charities, reflecting the beliefs she had held dear since her hard childhood. The way she carried herself in public, elegant, polite, and not needing praise, was consistent with her desire for privacy. After retiring, Stanwyck tried to live a quiet life, but in 1981, she was through a terrifying event that made her feel very unsafe. She had a traumatic home invasion while living in her fancy but tastefully understated home in the exclusive Trousdale Estates area of Beverly Hills. In the middle of the night, a male burglar who had broken into the house woke her up quickly. The man hit her on the head with the blunt end of a lamp, which hurt her and made her lose her way. After that, he locked her in a closet. He locked her inside while he searched the house. It is thought that the thief stole about $40,000 worth of her jewelry, a lot of which was emotional. Even though she lived through the attack and didn't talk about it, it left a psychological scar on her. The breaking into her safe place was a stark warning that even a famous Hollywood star could be hurt by threats from the outside world. Stanwyck had another setback in 1982, this time with her health, while making the popular TV miniseries The Thornbirds. She accidentally breathed in a lot of smoke used on the set during one of the scenes with special effects. The exposure broke down her already weak breathing system in terrible ways. The smoke caused a very bad case of asthma. It was made worse by the fact that she had smoked cigarettes for a long time. Stanwyck started smoking when she was 9 years old, which is a very young age to start. The rough-and-tumble environment of her childhood and the expectations of show business in the early 1900s may have contributed to her decision. Even though she quit in her late 70s, the damage had already been done. Her lungs were in bad shape after decades of smoking, leaving her open to long-term illnesses and greatly lowering her general health in her last years. Barbara Stanwyck died on January 20, 1990. She was 82 years old. She died at St. John's Health Center in Santa Monica, California, where she was getting care for a number of major health problems. The stated cause of her death was congestive heart failure made worse by chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, which she had because she had smoked all her life. In her last days, she was with a few close friends and trusted aides, and thought about things in a quiet way. Stanwyck made it clear that she did not want a funeral or a public tribute. She had always paid a lot of attention to her privacy. She didn't want any attention, Hollywood honors, or funerals. As she had asked, her body was burned in a poetic ode to her love of the American West, which was a theme in both her personal and professional life. Her ashes were spread out over the beautiful scenery of Lone Pine, California, from a helicopter. It was a very important place to her because she had shot many of her famous westerns there. The spreading of her ashes was a final return to the wild beauty and freedom she loved. That had always defined her, on and off screen. It was a perfect send-off for a woman who had spent her whole life going against the grain and making her own way.